Hello and welcome to the Nicole Mason Show, the show where we bring high achieving women who are trailblazers in their own respective industries and vocations, women who have turned trials into triumphs, setbacks into steps to not just succeed, but to soar. And today is no different. I am so excited about this powerful woman of God who is coming to the show to share with us today. And I want to read just a little bit of her bio. It is extensive, but I want to read a little bit in your hearing to know the heavyweight champion that she is in her industry. Sylvia Pauling is a licensed professional counselor and psychotherapist with over 25 years of experience in treating mental health. She leads counseling sessions for individuals, couples, and families through the Pauling Institute Incorporated, her mental health agency that provides services which span from therapy for depression to parenting support, couples counseling, and beyond. Sylvia has various areas of specialty for treatment, including anxiety, depression, trauma, grief, domestic violence, and relationship issues. She works with traditional and non-traditional families. Sylvia believes in holistic treatment, helping clients to develop a treatment plan for clinical psychotherapy that is tailored to their individual needs. Her treatment includes a collaborative client therapist approach. And because of this, she prioritizes building positive and trusting relationships with her clients. The client therapist approach emphasizes the patient's strengths and insights and is based upon a balance of body, mind, and soul. Her clients are truly the center of her work, and she is very passionate about helping clients reach their treatment goals. Aside from counseling, Sylvia is an activist and advocate in the movement to end domestic violence. She holds domestic violence victims and survivors very close to her heart and has dedicated her life to helping victims break free from the vicious cycle. Sylvia has extensive experience working with survivors and perpetrators of domestic violence. Her domestic violence work builds on the survivor's strengths and holds the perpetrators accountable, offering services in a safe environment. Sylvia was the first domestic violence specialist for the District of Columbia Child Welfare Agency, where she served for 15 years. She went on to become a program manager for the Office on Violence Against Women, and she has been in this role since 2016. Sylvia is a native South Carolinian. While Washington, D.C. is her home, her roots are in South Carolina. She is originally from Orangeburg, South Carolina. She graduated from South Carolina State University with a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. She went on to attend Trinity College and obtained a Master of Arts in Guidance and Counseling. She is a certified danger assessor and a D.C. Victim Assistance Academy graduate. This lifelong learner is currently enrolled at Walden University and is a candidate for a PhD in public policy and administration, slated for completion this year. Oh my goodness. Welcome, my dear sister, to the Nicole Mason Show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It is awesome to have you on the show today. And so we have a lot of ground to cover. And I want to start with this pandemic. And I know that you have been swamped with serving clients during this time. And I really want to start out by asking you very pointedly, because people listening want to know, some of the strategies that you have offered to your clients to navigate this space that we find ourselves in. And I know we're focusing on the pandemic, but this kind of space shows up in our lives a lot, and what I'm calling this space of unknown and uncertainty. When we have people that we lose our loved ones, that is a space of unknown, uncertainty. So what are some of the strategies that you have been offering on your clients?
And so one, I offer them first, I tell them to try that we have a safe place. Our space is safe. And so that they're able to voice some of that fear, some of the concern that they have about what is going on. It's very difficult to lose your loved one and not be able to be there. So that whole transition is not like we're accustomed to. And so, but also that fear of what am I going to do now? Or am I going to be next? Or it's what other family member is going to be next, or what's going to happen in this world, because everything is happening so quickly. We have different versions of the virus and all of that. And so, one, I offer them just a safe space to be honest about what they're afraid of. And also within that space, helping them to go deeper as to what their fear is really about. Sometimes, yes, it's about the grief that they've experienced, but oftentimes it's about that build-up anxiety that is a product of just everything that is going on. Just, that fear of, should I go to work? Or when it's time to go back to work, and what is going to happen to me, and I need to be here for my children, and all of those things. So offering them, one, a safe space, but then offering them, helping them to understand that they have within them what they need, and so that they can develop strategies. And that's why my approach draws on their strength. And so it's not the traditional kind of, you just come, you sit down, and we don't necessarily talk about what you're really experiencing. And so as we draw on their strengths, we use the things that they know that can work for them, but to help them understand that it's not always about the scientific clinical version, but to just be who they are, and to understand that, yes, talk therapy does work, but I do the mind, body, and soul perspective, because I believe it's not just about talk therapy. It's about diet and exercise, and it's about your spiritual connection. So we take all of that to try to help them understand that these are your strategies, these are your tools to help you. It does not have to be anything broad or big, or that it's the little things. So even that journaling about, I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me, kind of releases what they need, and in return helps them with their anxiety, and to also help them understand that worry, that fear, all of that leads to anxiety that then can impact their brain. It can impact the chemical imbalance in their brain. And so as a result of that, then there's anxiety, there is depression, there's clinical depression. And so sometimes that strategy has to be helping them get comfortable with seeing a psychiatrist for medication. Because one of the things we've kind of done is we've shunned, or we've made medication like a no-no. And so I simply tell them, if you had high blood pressure, if your cholesterol was high, if somebody told you you were going to get have a stroke, you would take the proper medication. And so sometimes your brain is off balance. And when you try all of these things, talk therapy, exercise, change your diet, and you're still having some of those symptoms, sometimes you need something else to help you. And so explaining that seeing a psychiatrist is nothing wrong with seeing a psychiatrist. It's just another form of a doctor. And so helping them to get comfortable with that appointment. And if medication was prescribed, helping them to understand that we're not just going to have the prescription, and you're not to just take the medication. And if you feel like the side effects are too much, then you need to go back and have another conversation about, this medication is not working for me. So you don't have to feel stuck. And if you feel like you are a zombie and you can't focus in your own medication, then that too means that the medication is not good for you. And that sometimes with that lack of motivation, it's because you're depressed and you're clinically depressed. So you need the medication to help you. So some of the tools I talk about, like exercise and changing your diet and journaling and affirmations and all of those things can't be done if you don't have the motivation. And
Right.
when you're constantly trying to do it and you still can't do it,
Mhm.
then it's more than likely there's something else going on. And
Right.
so that chemical imbalance can impact your ability to even get motivated to do something. So I have people say, I tried to journal, but I just can't even get up, or I tried to exercise, but I can't even get up in the morning, or when I even push it to the afternoon, I still can't get up. And so that says that lack of motivation, it's something else going on. It's not just about, because they in their hearts they want to do it, but they
Right.
can't do it. And so sometimes it does require medication.
Mhm.
But we kind of start, we start with what are your tools? What do you typically
Mhm.
do? I ask my clients about their spiritual life. And if you pray, then prayer is a tool to use. So we kind of we go through their history. We try to understand. I try to understand like where they come from and what has worked for them and what they know to work. And we kind of put all of those together, and that's there. It's like a personalized strategy, because
Right.
what works for me may not work for them.
Mm.
And the bigger thing is to let them know that when we're meeting, this is a safe space that you can discuss any and everything. And
Mhm.
unless you tell me something that's going to harm you or someone else,
Right.
it remains here. And so that tends to just help them flourish and do the work that is needed to be done.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And, I can hear the passion when you start talking about it. And, I am a huge proponent of counseling. My mantra is counseling plus Jesus equals you can't go wrong. That's just the way that I feel about it. And I think, during this time, it really has pushed everybody to a mental limit of some sort, if nothing more than just being in the house, and not having the separation between personal life and professional life. That has been something that, has really caused pause for me myself. But the diet and the exercising, that's been really helpful for me. Having my own counselor on speed dial, that's been very helpful. And not having any shame about needing that extra support. So I love that you say that it's just like, your doctor that you may go to for your physical body, your mental health is just as important. And so what I also hear from you is that you are encouraging people to give themselves permission to go to see about their mental health. Is that a good assessment?
Yes, yes. Yes. Give yourself permission to go, to understand that nothing is wrong with you per se. You're not going crazy as some people seem to think, and to understand that it is, in order to be a healthy being, it's your whole being. It's your body, your mind, and your soul. So you can't necessarily do, like, people who come are, they're quick to say, I make sure I go to all my doctor's appointments. I don't miss any of them. Well, this is a part of that. And I think that we didn't do a good job when we kind of separated physical health from mental health.
Mhm.
But nevertheless, getting people to understand that your mental health is an important part of that. Now,
Mhm.
one of the things you mentioned was just in this pandemic, just not being able to, we're kind of going from the bedroom to work, and that is an extremely, it has us exhausted. It has us not taking proper breaks throughout the day. It has us, there is something about that, even and even for myself, I didn't understand that travel time until I was in my house and basically was going from waking up to going to my desk. But there is something about that travel time. So I encourage clients now to get up, to
Mhm.
not stay at your desk all day or whatever, at wherever you're set up if you're teleworking, and
Mhm.
to take those coffee breaks and things that you
Yeah.
were taking when you were at the office. And
Mhm.
so, for myself, I intentionally, like, I have my recycle bin on the outside of my house, so I intentionally go out my front door and walk around the house to
Mhm.
just to get fresh air, sunshine, and all of that, because that impacts your mental health. The other day I was working on a project, and I started like at 7:30, and it was 4 o'clock, and I had not moved from my desk,
Mhm.
and my body was aching.
Yeah.
And I knew it was because I did not get up. I didn't get up. I didn't eat lunch. I didn't
Mhm.
do any of that. And so that's not healthy. And so
Right.
we have to be able to set the boundaries within our households, to make sure that we're getting the breaks that because there is something said about those coffee breaks we used to
Mhm.
take, even if it was just walking outside to Starbucks or
Mhm.
wherever. We need that break. And the constant screen time can cause depression in itself. It can cause our moods to shift. And so
Mhm.
we have to be careful just to get up and do some of the things that will help us to stretch, to figure out what needs to work, to walk at lunchtime, and all of those things. So those things are important, and we can't take them for granted. Like the other day when I sat for 8 hours, that
Mhm.
that was an example of, this don't work for you, because
Yeah.
your body is telling you that you did something wrong and you need to do it different. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's interesting. And I love that you said that your body is telling you, because your body does give you signs and warnings. That's where we get, the whole physical health and going to see about ourselves. Because something has cropped up that is let us know that something is a little off, and I knew when we first started this teleworking, the way that my bottom was, aching, that it's not good. And so when I went to the doctor about my back, because I started having back problems, he's like, your lumbar system and all that, and smushing down, and your vertebrae and all that. So there's something to be said about movement, and we
Yeah.
have to be intentional about movement. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to switch gears a bit, because I know that this is a deep passion for you, but I also know that, being an advocate to help people to get out of domestic violence situations is something that's also near and dear to you. Talk a little bit about the work that you do around, helping people to get free from those kinds of situations, and why that's important to you.
So my journey with domestic violence started, actually, I did an internship out of college. It was an internship at a rape crisis center, right after, well, it was part of graduation, part of my requirements to graduate, but then the agency hired me. So I started, right out of college, undergrad, at a rape crisis center. And then when I moved to DC, I began to work at a domestic violence program here, the House of Ruth. And so I did that work, and I helped victims. We created safety plans. We did all sorts of things. And then because that was at a safe house. And
Mhm.
so that's where I really began to learn about the meats of how to help people design safety plans and the cycle of violence and all of that. I was promoted there to become their first non-residential counseling center. I was the director of that counseling center. And so within that, that's where I began to see people of all walks of life, was dealing with domestic violence. They were women were afraid, and it wasn't about money. It was not about it wasn't about the lack of money always. They were literally afraid for their lives. So I did that work for several years, and then domestic violence would hit my door. And I would lose my sister, my baby sister, who we grew up. It was just the two of us in the house growing up. She would become a victim of domestic violence. And so not only would she was murdered, but not only was she murdered, her body was burned beyond recognition. And so that was devastating for me. That was a moment in my life that I will never ever forget. I will never forget that. And so, but I felt like, so to get where I am now was a journey. It took a lot of prayer, counseling, therapy. It took a lot to get where I am now. But I knew along the way that I had to be Devonia's voice, that no matter what, I was going to be her voice. And I just prayed and always said, God, I got to be her voice. I got to be her voice. And so when I pour into victims of domestic violence, that is where I'm pouring from. I'm pouring because I know the end product may not be good. And so if I can help you not end up like my sister, I'm all in, and I am going to try to do everything within me to help you, to help you understand the cycle that you're in, that is not about you, but it's about the perpetrator and and the desire to have control, and that the ultimate form of control is death. And so how do we break this cycle, and how do we get you to a safe space? And no, you do not have to stay within that environment, and just to help them see a sense of hope, a sense of hope that I do not have to stay in this, and I don't have to take this, and there's something else there's something different.
Yeah. And I know that that was a really tough situation for your family. And I know that you are finishing up a very powerful book around that whole journey, and, just how you've been able to help so many others, with your speaking engagements, and now, preparing to publish a book around it. And I know that your clients have benefited so greatly from this. But I am interested to know, and we talked about this before, and I just found it so fascinating that you also counsel the perpetrators of domestic violence, and, share what that has been like, because I know that you're doing this too out of the situation related to your sister. But what prompted you to say, not only am I going to help, the people so they won't end up like my sister, but I also need to speak to and help the people who are actually committing these types of, behaviors, because I think that's just really powerful.
So for years, I was meeting with victims of domestic violence, and it was primarily, that was the focus, victims of domestic violence, and primarily that is the focus that we focus on, is trying to we're just getting to a better place where we are able to help victims, help them to understand. We have a better understanding of domestic violence and what that means and all of that. But for me, with my loss of Devonia, I felt like, yes, we can help victims over and over and over and over. But these perpetrators, they tend to go from one person to another. And so until we do something to help them, we're not going to stop the cycle of violence, because it may not be me or you, or maybe somebody else, but the same person just keeps on doing what they're doing. So we have to be able to do something different and something beyond the criminal justice system. So
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
beyond, just um locking people up, or something beyond anger management, because what we know is anger management has absolutely nothing to do with domestic violence. People who have problems with their anger, they have it across the board. It is not specific around an intimate partner. They explode at work. They explode in public. They get angry no matter what. So it's not just their intimate partner. And most people who are perpetrators of intimate partner violence or domestic violence, the aim and the focus is that intimate relationship. And so we work with people who are nice at work, and we have no idea that they are perpetrators.
Right, right.
And they are these villains and all of that. And so my choice, I decided I have got to do something. If we're really going to stop the cycle of violence, we have got to work with the perpetrators. We have got to understand what is going on within their minds, and is there some mental health issues. And that is what my dissertation is all about, is about the mental health of the domestic violence perpetrator, because I believe people don't just snap and decide they're going to kill somebody. People don't just snap and say, not only am I going to kill somebody, but I'm going to burn them so nobody can find them. And so there has to be something else. And so that is what led me to, and it's difficult work, because one of the things is to hold them accountable. So you can't come to my therapy session and think that you're going to sit and say, oh, everything is wonderful, blah, blah, blah. But you have you have a civil protection against you, or a restraining order because you have badly injured or abused someone. So we have to get to the root of what is the root of your pain and your hurt and all of that. And I believe that is part of the big equation. So I can get someone to a safe house, but then this same perpetrator goes after someone else, and that whole cycle just keeps going. And so that's where it comes from, to have an understanding, but not only an understanding, to bring about healing for perpetrators, so the pattern of abuse and the cycle can stop.
Ooh, deep breath, everybody. That's deep. That's deep. But let me tell you something. It's powerful and it's needed. And I applaud you for taking what you were already doing in the area of domestic violence before losing your sister, but then going deeper into it and understanding that, God is using you in such a powerful way to make change at a micro level, a macro level, at everything in between. And I just applaud you for that. And we always run out of time when we start having these powerful conversations. But how can people get in contact with you? Perhaps someone is listening. They want to invite you to speak to their, to their people, speak to their organizations. How can people contact you?
So my website is www.thepaulininstituteinc.com. My phone number is 202-904-2402. And my email is info@thepaulininstitute.com.
Good. Excellent. And so we have to end it right there, everyone. And I want you to just take a deep breath, because this, of course, is heavy material and content. But you have to have somebody like Sylvia Pauling of the Pauling Institute on your team and in your life. And we'll have her information across our social media platforms. And I want to thank you again for joining us today, and tune in again for another powerful episode of the Nicole Mason Show. Have a great day.
Thank you.